What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What's going on today, brother? Long time no see.
I know, man. It's been like 48 hours, I think. I was missing you, but uh, just obviously we're here after the NBA draft. That was tonight. We had the preview show, came out on Tuesday, and I think if you listen to that, you might have been able to make a couple bucks.
Dude, I was worried that we weren't going to be able to do this, Tyson, because we were so hot that our apartments and our houses were going to be burned to a crisp watching the results come in. I mean, you said it with as much humility as possible. I mean, we crushed it to start this draft.
I think 10 for 10 in the top 10,
Had to be close. I mean,
9 for 10.
we'll run through the top 10, but basically we said Paolo should be one. He's our number one on the board. You know, the Magic would be stupid if they don't select him. Oh, what do you know? Today, Magic decide to grow a brain, I guess, and select Paolo Banchero, our guy at one. We said no matter what, Chet Holmgren was going to go two, even if both options are on the board. Oh, Jabari Smith, number one guy on the board. They're like, nope, Chet's our guy. Boom, nailed that. And we said Jabari Smith at three would be great for the Rockets. They agreed. We said Keegan Murray. That's who we think the Kings should pick. I mean, they did the unpopular thing, went there. And then how about Jaden Ivey? We'll get into this, but him paired up with Cade Cunningham. Woo!
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Your boy Dyson
Cade,
Daniels.
DeAndre Ayton, huh?
Yeah. Your boy Dyson Daniels. I think you were a sharpshooter on that.
We got him at 8. We got Dyson Daniels at 8, and we got Johnny Davis at 10. Both correct there.
Yeah, so we sniped that.
I mean, we were doing our thing, man. And Ben Mathurin under 6.5.
Yes, sir.
We did that. Basically, we just want to start it off with the victory lap. I think.
Yeah,
that's what we were doing today.
Yeah, and I believe I said Jeremy Sochan from Baylor. Spurs loved him, and what do you know? They take him number 9 overall. So we want to do a little victory lap because. I mean, Woj is saying us, oh, this top 3 is locked in. People are taking it. Oh, Woj bomb, it's locked in. We didn't believe it necessarily. I still had a suspicion that Paolo Banchero, the Magic would come to their senses and take him number 1 overall. And what do you know? He's the number 1 player off the board.
And then Woj had to start the broadcast on ESPN at least by ruining the number 1 pick for all of us because he was upset that he was wrong. He does this all the time. Whenever he gets scooped, he tries to steal the moment so he can.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm over the Woj, Schefter, Shams. I'm over all of them. Like, you know how much better sports would be if we didn't have this going on? Like, there's no excitement anymore. Like, it was fun when he was like flexing on everybody, and he's like, "There's zeroing in on this guy." That was like a 1-year thing. It was like, "Oh, that's cool." And now I'm like, dude, I'm over. Like, I wanna. If I'm gonna sit down and watch the draft, and then you're just gonna tell me before I get to see, then I'm just going to read about it tomorrow. I mean, I'm like checking my phone during this thing. So I was like, he's just going to tell me what's up.
Yeah, and I will say we were kind of talking about it a bit. Like previously in the past, I'd just throw it on ESPN and I'd be watching the draft coverage. I actually watch the stadium coverage now. It's this little website called Stadium Shams is one of the contributors there, along with they had Max Strus on today. Pat Garrity. He was a GM, assistant GM for the Pistons for a little bit. Obviously a legend for Notre Dame, and then Jeff Goodman, little college flavor on that side with the host, and they're out with the Shams tweet early, so they react to it earlier. So I get to watch the kids go up on the stage beforehand, but listen to them to break it down, like basically 2 minutes before Silver even walks out on the stage. It's pretty nuts how they can do that now, but I just kind of adapted to it. I'm like, all right, I know it's going to come out, and I'm already going to be like looking at the next pick for these guys. Right, I got to adjust my viewing schedule or my viewing habit.
I want to be able to record something on my TV, not have to think about it for 6 hours. And I know you can turn off your notifications and that stuff, but like, I try, but I can't avoid it. No matter what website I go on, like I hop on any social media, it's there. I go on Yahoo or Google or whatever to type something in. Like the front page is going to be like Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams traded. I'm like, what? Let me find out about this. Like, how do you know? It's I'm just an old man yelling in the wind right now. I'm about to turn 26 on Monday, so it's all downhill, brother.
It really is, man. You're gonna get your own insurance and all that, dude. At that point, I mean, geez, just start yelling at the clouds. But I will say, Tyson too. If you can see over my shoulder, I got a Duke shirt up along with Aaron Judge. So big night for me. 4 first-round players from Duke drafted. Aaron Judge, it's a walk-off double to beat the Astros. They just keep it rolling in New York, and then I have to be wearing a Duke shirt as well. So big day for the kid. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a big day, and behind your right shoulder is like a little league football. I think like a replacement jersey or something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
but
a Halloween costume, I think, is what we're gonna go with.
Yeah, then we'll go with that.
All right, well, let's get into it, Tyson. Enough of the victory lap for us. Let's get into the analysis and what people want to hear. So we're gonna go through the top 10 for you guys. Give our opinions. I mean, we obviously have broken down the top 3, so we won't go in depth on that, but kind of 4 on, we'll give our thoughts on fit, who the player is, get you introduced, and we get ready into the summer league, and we get to see these guys in their NBA uniforms for the first time. Then after that, we are going to get into other big names. Maybe they were in the top 10. Where did they go? As well as some of the biggest surprises. Who was a person who went earlier than expected? Who fell? Who were some surprises for us? So we're going to get all into it as we get through our 2022 NBA draft reaction. But as we kind of alluded to, Magic, number 1 overall pick. They take Paolo Banchero, the forward out of Duke. This was our guy, Tyson. How do you think he fits in Orlando?
Perfectly. Because no matter where he was going to go, I thought he was going to fit perfectly. Because of any of those top 3 teams, and if you've been listening to this, you know I'm the biggest Jalen Green fan there is. He's walking in right now. He's the best player on the team. And he's walking into Orlando right now. He's the best player on the team. They have, we think Franz Wagner is going to be good, right? After the early returns are pretty good on him. Jalen Suggs, I was in times impressed with, and I was frustrated with him at times too. But him, Cole Anthony, all those guys, like the Magic have some real fight, and now they have a guy that could be a potential superstar. And I don't think like that people are ready for how good this guy's going to be to start his NBA career, because like it was the upside of Jabari and the upside of Chet, and we were all talking ourselves into it. But this guy's going to come in. He's going to have a better rookie season than those other guys, I think. And his ceiling is almost as high, if not the same level as at least Jabari's. Chet is like kind of otherworldly. If he could do what people think he can do, he'll be 101. Like I said last time, that player doesn't exist. I don't buy it. But like this dude is an alpha. He walked into the biggest college program in the country with, Coach K leaving. That's a huge thing. Deal with that all year long. Other 5-star guys all over the place, upperclassmen who got the ball with 2 minutes left, right? And that's going to be the same thing when he goes to Orlando. This guy is special.
Yeah, and I think what Orlando's missing, and as you alluded to, you kind of look at leading scorers. Cole Anthony, was leading scorer last year. He can score, but he really wants to be more of the kind of that combo guard. He can score, but also wants to set his guys up. Jalen Suggs, what's his role actually going to look like in the NBA? At times last year, he looked a little undersized at the guard position. Franz Wagner, I thought he's actually going to be more of like a sharpshooter. He actually didn't shoot a lot of threes. He was doing more of a slasher type of role.
Rim pressure, yeah.
Rim pressure, yeah. And Wendell Carter Jr., who they got from the Bulls in the Vucevic trade, he was a revelation for him last year, double-double machine, but couldn't really be that leading scorer for him. What you're getting in Banchero is your alpha scorer immediately. Like, this dude is ready to walk in the NBA and score. He's 250 pounds with an NBA body. He's not going to be pushed around. He's going to be able to get to the rim immediately. I know there are questions about cramping, how his body's going to be able to hold up over the course of 82. Yeah, that's what all these guys are going to have to get.
They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. I think early rookie of the year for me, Paolo Banchero, that's going to be definitely a market I'm going to look to play into as holding a Paolo Banchero rookie of the year ticket. But as far as his basketball analysis goes, this was a perfect fit for the Orlando Magic. I think he's going to be a star for them for many years to come.
Home run, man. And this one felt good, I think, because the betting market was right on this one.
Yeah.
Like, the odds closed so crazily, and everybody in the world was saying it's going to be Jabari. I just like that one. It was weird because it was like, there's no way that we all know something they don't know. Like, that never happens. And then It just ended up being correct,
Absolutely. And then the other thing, too, that we were correct on, the Thunder were never going to waver from Chet Holmgren. They just weren't going to do it. And we have our thoughts on Chet. How high is his ceiling? What's his floor? Because I think when you're taking somebody second overall, and I know the Thunder, they have their own little kind of thought process on how they want to rebuild their franchise and how they want to shape their roster. But I still think there needs to be a thought process about what the floor for a player at number 2 overall is. Everybody's got their own idea about what this player can be. I think for me right now, if I'm looking at Holmgren, because he's going to have to play immediately, he's going to have to come in and make an impact. What he's going to be able to give, I do believe, is a little bit of relief on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is their franchise piece right now. He will take some pressure off of him, just naturally being at his size and his ability to knock down shots, can also handle it a little bit. We'll see how that actual style of handling the rock and open space translates to the NBA. But I will say for right now, what he gives the Thunder is some sort of pressure relief off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which I think is exactly what this franchise needed.
And if this thing works, man, like, and I'm talking about the whole big picture in Oklahoma, like if Poku hits too,
yeah,
and then they have 2 of these guys, it's over, right? I mean, that's that, right? It's like, the ceiling on both these guys is incredible, and I guess it's like diversifying your portfolio, just trying to get 2 of these guys. I mean, Chet's obviously going to be baseline is going to be better than Pokuševski, 100%.
Yep.
But like the guy we were promised Poku to be is Kevin Durant. Basically, he was like what they were like. This guy could do this, and now with Chet Holmgren, we're like, well, what if Kevin Durant could block 4 shots a game?
Right.
And so, like, if one of these guys hits 75% of what we've been sold on, I think it's a win. And I think it's a swing that the Thunder, and I hate to make it sound like we don't like Chet because he's not generational like everybody was saying. I think that's been our biggest problem with this all year long. It's like, come on. Like, he's not even the best player in college basketball. But
right.
As far, like, for them, they have 18 picks going forward.
Something like that. I know they traded a few today, but I mean, who knows how many they've been stockpiling. Maybe we don't even know all the picks they have.
And if this thing works, like, who's in a better position than Oklahoma City to move up and get, the next guy if they want to keep going this route, or Devin Booker gets unhappy in Phoenix and you can go pull the trigger on him, use your unlimited name, but whatever it is, now you have ultimate leverage, which is really the game Presti's been trying to play.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is a good fit for where they wanted to go. I think if they would have selected Jabari Smith to this pick, I don't think that fits the vision for where they're trying to build this franchise at the current moment. Now, obviously, Jabari Smith's a great player. I think him going to the Rockets, that's honestly, I think it's a better fit than Banchero would have been. I know they were locked in because I don't think they thought that they were going to have an opportunity to draft Jabari Smith, but Banchero's going to be that alpha dude. Jabari Smith, I think, will eventually get there, but he's not ready right now to walk in and take over like Banchero is. Banchero would have commanded the ball, and I think at times, that would have taken away from the development of Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., and what's the other player? Tate, right? Jason Tate.
Yeah.
He's a young player. I think Smith obviously is a priority over Porter Jr. and Jason Tate at this point, but just saying that in context that they do have other people there that is going to be a part of this, or they at least want to be a part of this ride. I think ideally for the Rockets, they're going to try to run things through Jalen Green and have Jabari Smith be that spacer and be a second option. Now, that could obviously change if Jabari Smith comes in. He's just a walking bucket, which nothing in his past indicates that he won't be. So I think if they had Banchero, then it would have been, okay, we need to run everything through Banchero because he's ready to do everything right now. This, I think, fits their timeline a little bit better as somebody who's going to grow into himself in the NBA, kind of like with what this Rockets franchise is going to do with the players they currently have.
And they're going to be the league pass team. I'm just putting it out there right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm fascinated with this. They're the classic basketball trope of, like, there's not enough balls. Like, it's Kevin Porter Jr.,
he gets them up.
Like, he shoots the ball a lot. Jabari Smith is going to want to shoot the ball a lot. Jalen Green has never once passed the ball in the NBA, I don't think. Like these guys, it's going to be fast. And if they can figure it out, I mean, these are, we're projecting with all these guys, but they look like they could be, three of the best scorers in the entire league for their position, right? And defense wins championships, sure, but if you put the ball in the bucket, you can be playing late into the playoffs at least.
Yeah.
And if this thing works for the Rockets, and another thing to keep in mind with Houston is, they're definitely eyeing what's going on over there in Brooklyn because they have those picks. And if Kyrie actually wants out and KD actually wants out, and you're looking at a Ben Simmons-led team, you feel a lot better about your prospects of getting back some high value there.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. All right, let's move on to this one now. Keegan Murray, we said it. We think the Kings should take Keegan Murray here. I think the only reason they would have taken Jaden Ivey is if they were thinking about moving on from a De'Aaron Fox or Davion Mitchell, who they selected last year. I think this is a great pick for the Kings. A 3-and-D guy, one of those wings that are going to be are coveted all over this league, has done nothing but work hard and improve his game. He's a grinder that fits with what Davion Mitchell is. And he's just another. It seems like they're trying to get away from, we just need to get the most talented guys here. We don't care about their past. No, now we need to get workers. We need to get players who want to come in and put hours into the gym. That's Keegan Murray. Paired with, De'Aaron Fox, who can penetrate. Keegan Murray is going to be able to space the floor, as well as Davion Mitchell. What's his nickname? It's off night, because whoever he guards has an off night.
Yeah.
And Keegan Murray's no slouch on defense either. This is a great pick, I think, for the Kings to pair with what they have. I was like almost 100% certain they were going to fuck this pick up just because that's what the Kings do. And when I actually saw Keegan Murray, I was like, no way they actually made the right decision for this roster.
And I think it does a couple things for the Kings, right? It's like now Harrison Barnes is a contract that you're looking to move. Like, I know you can absorb more if you'd like, but you can either have Harrison Barnes teach these guys how to be pros, because it's for as much hate as Harrison Barnes has got since he was 18, like all he's ever done is work hard. He just wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be. So you can keep him, or you can look to move off him if you're really enticed by somebody in the free agent market that fits the timeline better. But as far as Keegan Murray goes, man, it's been a couple weeks now here, and this guy's not athletic enough to do this, and this guy can't do that. And it's like, no, he just doesn't have the highlights that you want to see. He's dunking on everybody in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
He can't dribble drive. Well, he did it a lot. And he can't guard. It's just the Big Ten. It's a little slower. People kind of get lost in it, but it produces some really, really good players and some really high-level defensive players. And that's one thing that I think Keegan Murray can be pretty much right away. And that's something that the Kings are kind of building their identity. The question remains for them, though, is like, what is Sabonis going to be? Like, is he going to be a King for a while, or is this somebody you're trying to flip at the deadline to a team that's trying to win right now?
And you got to figure out that identity. Like, that's what the Kings have been missing for a long time. So
15 years.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, kind of how does it go together? Are you going to still kind of stay veteran mixed with youth? Do you want to go all youth and try to do another rebuild? Can you do that? Like, that's the questions that the Kings are going to have to figure out.
I want to jump in on that. Yeah, I gotta answer that, because I hate the idea of like you can't rebuild because you just tried it and it didn't work, but that's all you can do, because otherwise you're just gonna be where the Kings have been forever, picking 4, picking 5, picking 6, not ever getting a guy. Like, if you're top 3 in this draft, you have the chance to get a franchise-altering guy. 4, Keegan Murray's gonna be a good player, but you'd be much more excited as a Kings fan if you walked away with Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, somebody like that. I think you have to go back into another rebuild and just do it until you do it the right way, right? Because you're going to get stuck. We all love the Hornets. What the fuck is Charlotte? Like, what's Charlotte's ultimate goal here? Because this team is never going to win. They might not ever win a playoff series. You keep them like this.
Yeah, and they won't lose enough games to go get one of these guys either.
And they're stuck. Chicago was there for a long time. It's like it's a cycle in the NBA, and people are like, I can't do this, but you have to go again.
Now, here's a player that many people were like, how could the Kings pass on Jaden Ivey? Oh, well, Jaden Ivey didn't work. He didn't want to go to Sacramento. I actually think Sacramento was this was a smart pick for them. So I don't want to hear any of that nonsense coming towards the Kings. Like, oh, Kings are king. And again, like, I don't think so. I think this is a smart pick for him. Now, as far as the Pistons go with this pick, I mean, to pair Jaden Ivey, who has superstar potential written all over him, I think his floor may be a little bit lower than the first four guys we talked about. I don't think his ceiling's as high as a Smith, a Holmgren, or a Banchero, but it's superstar high. Like, the dude is a highlight reel freaky athlete, and you're going to pair that with Cade Cunningham, who I've gone on record saying he is the best prospect I've seen come out of college basketball in like six years or so. I mean, I love Cade Cunningham. I love everything about his game. These two in the backcourt together, the Pistons have something here.
I think with Jaden Ivey, one thing to keep in mind is like, I don't know how low his floor can. Like, his floor to me is almost like pre-breakout Victor Oladipo, where he's still going to do things really well, right? And Jaden Ivey can put the ball in the hoop, and Cade's going to be willing to let Jaden Ivey put the ball in the hoop, and I think that's a huge thing for him. Here is how good is his shot creation off the dribble? It's pretty good, right? I mean, it's better than most college players, but his facilitating needs a lot of work to be like an NBA guy. And if he were to go to the Kings, you know, De'Aaron Fox is a really good passer too, but Cade is just a lot more cerebral. And Detroit as a whole, again, seems to have a plan, what they want to accomplish. And when you watch the Kings, it's like De'Aaron Fox averaged like 29 points a game this year, and I don't think they ran a single play. Like, all year long. It was just, you know, we're out here playing ball. I think Jaden Ivey's going to be a lot better in the structure that they have in Detroit. And that backcourt with Saddiq Bey, we'll get to Duren, right? And Isaiah Stewart. Like, this team all of a sudden goes from looking like they're pretty sorry and they lost that Jeremy Grant trade, everybody said, to now it's like this team's going to be in the play-in for too long.
Killian Hayes off the bench potentially, if he can get healthy, that's another talent that they have kind of stockpiled there. But yeah, and the other thing too, I mean, Jaden Ivey, if you're not familiar, you know, he was at Purdue under Matt Painter. That's a very structured type of team, and, you know, run a structured type of offense. And he took the next step when he really bought in. That was the whole thing, buying into the structure. And he got to that point where he took that leap. If he can buy in, now I don't know how long Dwayne Casey, the head coach, is going to be the head coach of the Pistons. So again, there may be another structure and system coming in.
It'll be until they get good enough to fire Dwayne Casey. Exactly. That's what he does.
That's a good point. But if he can buy into that structure, and like you said, Cade will be running that, and obviously, you know, Saddiq Bey, you know, the Villanova guy, you know, he's used to that as well. Elite shooter, stretches the floor. Isaiah Stewart's been able to stretch it a bit. He showed that he can hit a three. It's a very, very interesting core that they're developing in Detroit. I love this pick for them.
It's fun when these teams, you can see it happening in real time. And I remember we were actually together when the Timberwolves drafted. Oh, I can't remember. It was one of the times they drafted somebody, and we're like, oh, these guys are going to be spooky. But that's what everybody else was saying, and you and I were like, I don't know. But in Detroit, like, this is going to work. Like, this, eventually it's going to work. There's just no way around it. Like, if Cade Cunningham is as good as we think he is, and Jaden Ivey is as good as we think he is, like, it's going to be a premier backcourt in the East, you know, before these guys are off their rookie contracts.
Yeah, exactly. And another player I think is going to walk in, and we talked about it in the last podcast, Bennedict Mathurin. I'd love him at this spot. I think he can legitimately walk in and start and play. Looks like Malcolm Brogdon's going to be on his way out for the Pacers. I think this is a very easy plug and play type of guy. Dude can get buckets. He's a good defensive player. Has very long arms. Just plays the game very smoothly and under control. Looks like he knows what he's doing at all times on the floor. Never gets sped up. I love Ben Mathurin. I think he's a fantastic prospect, and he's going to come in and make an impact on day one.
So this would mean, is he gonna sit at the 2 or the 3? Are they going to slide Haliburton down to play point guard?
Haliburton, I think, will play point, and then he'll play the 2.
That's going to be fun.
And then we'll see if Duarte can get in there. But Duarte may be a 6-man. But that's going to – Halliburton and Bennedict Mathurin, woo.
And this guy is, I think, the most overlooked bucket getter in the class. Like any gym he walked into, the entirety of his time in Arizona, it felt like he was going to lead the game scoring.
Oh my God!
And it's simple and it's smooth and it's effortless, and that's why I'm excited to watch this Pacers team, is because that's exactly how Halliburton is to me too, in a completely different sense, right? Like he's not nearly as athletic, and everything has to be a little bit more calculated, but he's smooth. And now we have Ben Mathurin, who's smooth. Chris Duarte's smooth. Like. They're not going to be good. This team's going to suck. I'm pretty sure the Pacers are going to be really bad, but it's going to be one of those ones where this is going to be a fun experiment, because this thing could go one of two ways, right? They could either work together, or Ben Mathurin is on the trade block after year 2 because Halliburton's value went down and they want to get whatever they can.
It's especially if they can't figure out who the defensive stopper is. Like if they're going to be looking to move Miles Turner, and they only have, Halliburton, he's solid. He's not great. Mathurin, I think, is good. And Duarte, I don't think he really gives you much on defense at this point. So you're going to have to funnel somebody in who can shot block. And if Miles Turner, the problem with him is he can't stay healthy in a Pacers uniform.
Yeah, average 4 blocks a game for 30 games a season. It's not
exactly.
It's not the ideal.
No. So I like this pick a lot. Plug and play guy. I think the Pacers are doing well, especially if they do a sign and trade with Malcolm Brogdon, or if he just walks on his own. All right, Tyson, the mystery man for the Trailblazers, Shaedon Sharpe.
Tell us about him.
I don't think anybody knows. Here's what we know about him. Besides the fact that he was on a milk carton for a long time stashed at Kentucky. That's all we knew. From Canada. Dude is freaky long, freaky
big
athletic.
Night for Canada, too.
Big night for Canada, absolutely. The old Canucks, getting a little on the hardwood instead of the ice. Super long, super athletic, and can shoot. That's what we know about him. You see his highlights, you're like, holy shit, this guy is the next one. Dude soars through the air, has a silky smooth jump shot, and can handle the rock. Now, the question is, we only saw him at the high school level 2 years ago. We never saw him play a game for Kentucky. He was going to play for Kentucky, committed to coming back for him, then I'm good. I'm going to go to the draft. So
I got a promise in the top 10.
So we don't know much about Shaedon Sharpe. Now, I will say I like this pick for the Blazers. You just got Jeremy Grant, so that's a wing guy. Sharpe's not going to have to come in and immediately have an impact here. He can play role off the bench, kind of learn from Damian Lillard, Jeremy Grant, who will be his, the contemporary on the wing, as well as Anthony Simons, man. That dude did nothing but just work and learn. It seems like the Blazers have set up a culture of the young guys kind of being sponges and learning from the older guys. And if that's what Shaedon Sharpe does when he comes in, he just absorbs everything, works hard. The sky's the limit on this kid.
And I think that's something important to keep in mind here, because on the surface, this pick doesn't make a lot of sense for Portland. Like, if you think about the fact they just traded for Jeremy Grant, and their kind of MO over the last 5 years has been to surround Dame with older, like you said last time, winning basketball players, right? They go out and they overpay for Robert Covington, and then they do it 3 more times. And then they go out, they get Jeremy Grant, and then they come in the draft and they take, a young guy. None of us know how good he's going to be, but they're kind of awkwardly walking that tightrope right now of Dame's probably not going to leave, but eventually you're going to have to move on. And so now, Anthony Simons, to me, he looks everything that we thought he was going to be when he came out. He was out of high school, right? He played 1 year.
He played 1 year, but I think he was hurt a little bit. He was very under the radar.
I think he was a G leaguer too. He didn't go to college. I know that. And then if he is as good as he showed us, and Shaedon Sharpe hits, then all of a sudden, you have a new era coming in. You can kind of usher out that Dame Lillard. I don't want to call it an experiment because it's been so long, but whatever they've done over the last handful of years obviously isn't working. And they're just kind of trying to rectify some of those wrongs here.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's not going to be a pick when you look at it on the surface where you're like, Oh man, Shaedon Sharpe. Wow, this is perfect for Damian Lillard. But it's one of those things to the future. Maybe, all right, like you said, you can move off from Dame, maybe 2-3 years down the road, bring in more building blocks for Simons and Sharpe if it works. Now, Simons, you're right. He went to IMG Academy for that extra year. G Leaguer as well. He won the slam dunk contest, one of the worst ones ever. But I mean, that kid, dude, he can shoot the rock and he's bouncy. I was like, I didn't know he could shoot the ball like that. I mean, he is a bucket.
He couldn't.
Right. Now here, tell us about your boy here, Tyson. Dyson Daniels, a name in the G League Ignite. Not a lot of people knew about him. I think coming in for the G League Ignite, it was Jaden Hardy. Was it Marjan Beauchamp? Yeah. Like some of those guys. And this kid, Australian, he really exploded onto the scene for the G League Ignite. What are the Pelicans getting in this kid?
I described him last time, but like just an athletic wing defender that's going to be able to facilitate, and if he scores, that's a plus. But his floor right now is going. I think he might have like one of the highest floors in the entire top 10, just because like remember the way we all talked about every long wing defender really, but this is one that like I know can do it. I watched him do it, and he can facilitate, and he's just a good basketball player. And pairing him with Herbert Jones in New Orleans, it's going to be so hard to score the ball as a backcourt in the second unit, especially because I think those guys are going to play together a lot coming off the bench. And CJ McCollum is awesome, and he's going to be able to mentor this kid. And if he can help this guy learn how to score the basketball, the Pelicans are kind of just fielding this team right now of like 10-foot wingspan guy. Like if they all touched, you couldn't go past them sideline to sideline.
Red Rover.
Right, exactly. But I think his facilitating upside is so much higher than people are giving it credit for. Like I compared him last time, he's got the same thing, whatever it is that Josh Giddey has, where it's like he just knows how to play. And they're not the same player at all. But I wouldn't be surprised if we look up halfway through the year and Dyson Daniels has the best advanced stats for rookies, because his counting stats aren't going to be great out of the gate. There's just no way, especially with a healthy Zion. Brandon Ingram is now realizing finally that he can average 30 points a game in the NBA
and be able to pass.
Yeah, he's not going to put up wild stats where you're like, you see, he just dropped 26, but he is going to be able to lock down your favorite player, and I'm confident in that.
And it's interesting. So when you were describing him to me on Tuesday or last podcast, I need to do I admittedly do a better job of checking out these Ignite players. Like I know Jaden Hardy, I like really wanted him, but just never got into the Ignite thing really. That's obviously a blind spot of mine. But so I was looking at some highlights of his, and then when I saw he landed at the Pelicans, I'm like, man, he reminds me a lot of what Lonzo Ball kind of was for the Pelicans. Now, they don't need Alonzo Ball right now due to the addition of McCollum and the newfound playmaking of Brandon Ingram. But somebody who's going to run the second unit and still be disruptive, or, CJ gets into foul trouble, that's okay. You can still run it. And, he has plus on defense. Maybe not give you as much scoring, but going to be disruptive. And maybe you can steal a few more possessions with him on the floor. I loved what Lonzo Ball did for that Pelicans team with that defense and facilitating. If this kid can do it for them, obviously for a much cheaper price, and somebody who doesn't need the ball in his hands as much as Lonzo did, this is a great pick. And what they're building in New Orleans, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is probably going to be my league pass team, but they're going to be good. Like they're going to be good in 2 to 3 years if everything goes right for them.
And one thing too about this pick that, I heard him mention on the broadcast, but Jose Alvarado is not as good as people think he is.
Oh my God,
he's just not. And so, like, they heard on ESPN, they called him like Mr. Steal the Ball,
steal your ball,
whatever it is. But like, just because you pick somebody up for 94 feet doesn't mean you're playing good defense, because they get down to the 3-point line, shake you, and get a layup. Like this is a real NBA player that the Pelicans just got. I don't feel the same way about Jose Alvarado. Like he's gonna be a 8th, 9th, 10th man, for his entire career.
And there's a role for that, right? But we're trying to make him. Oh, look at Marcus Smart's doing. It's like, dude, he's not Marcus Smart. Like he's a He's a good pest, and there's a role for that on every team. But it's the media fell in love with it. Let's prop this guy up. The real great defensive player on that
He
team,
stole the ball from Chris Paul twice, and people lost their minds.
And people lost their minds. The real great defensive player on that team is Herb Jones.
Yeah.
Like, that's an NBA defender. Dude is long, just can do whatever on the floor defensively. But we fall in love with hiding in the corner and cherry picking. It's great. But I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the kid either, Alvarado. But I mean, let's pump the brakes on him. But you're a hater, so that's
I'm a hater. That's true.
Now, here's a pick that people shocked a lot of the casuals here. I'm not gonna lie, Twitter was ablaze. Sochan, man, do you see his tape at Baylor? Or when I watched him, not even his tape, because of course nobody says that.
Nobody
when I watched him at Baylor, I'm like, holy smokes. Here's what you're gonna get with Jeremy Sochan, and this is what I was locked in with when I said I think the Spurs are gonna take him. The dude is a fucking douchebag on the court.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Like,
you
hate playing against him. He's like a Rodman, Draymond Green. Like, he models his game around Draymond Green. It's awesome. It's so great. Plus, he has a face-up game. He can hit a jump shot from the elbow. Can space the floor a bit and really take pressure off your other players, your star guys, your DeJounte Murrays for the Spurs, your Devin Vassell's. These other guys, because he's gonna be like, nah, I'll be the prick. I'll be the one that everybody hates, because that's what I do. I mean, theoretically for the Spurs here, who are they gonna take that's a franchise changer for them? Oh, Johnny Davis is there. Yeah, but you already have DeJounte Murray. Kind of going down the stretch here. Jalen Duren. Well, you already have two bigs. Ochai Agbaji. Your wings are stacked. Like, this fits what they're looking for to a T. Somebody who can hit a jump shot, somebody who knows how to play the game, somebody who has a role and can fit a specific thing that this team needs. I think this is a great pick for the Spurs. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, Jeremy Sochan is going to be a perennial all-star or Jeremy Sochan is going to make an NBA all-team. No, he probably will never sniff that. But that's not what you're looking for in some of these spots in the draft. I think that's what people don't understand. And I hate the whole, man, I watched him in college. He was bad. When's the last time that something directly from college translated to the NBA? Because that's what drives me nuts when I hear that. It's like, that hasn't happened in like 2 decades.
Guys that can't play defense, that normally translates. And this guy can play defense. So everything else is out the window. As far as San Antonio goes here, it's, to me, like, this is perfect. Because if you look at their last handful of drafts, and I was joking with you, I was like, if he's there, they're going to take Dyson Daniels. And you're like, why would they do it? It's just because this is what they do, right? They build around these like physical freaks as far as measurements go, and then they figure everything out. But this is the first guy I think in the draft that I can envision being on this team and playing really, really well in their system. Like, I know we said a couple of these fits were perfect, but that's because those players are really good. Sochan could have been screwed if he went somewhere else. He ended up in San Antonio where, as you mentioned, he has a face-up game, and he likes middies. San Antonio wants to shoot all of them. They don't care. It doesn't matter that it's threes or more than 2. They don't. A bucket's a bucket. This guy, he's a really good cutter, like a really good cutter, I think. He's a pest on defense, and he is a prick. He's an asshole. And San Antonio has always had that guy. And
Bruce Bowen.
All of them. One thing I think that's important when you talk about guys like this, and you said he'd never be, all first-team NBA or whatever, Reggie Miller made the Hall of Fame with 1 All-NBA third team. 1. But we talk about all these guys, then every player comparison is best-case scenario, right? It's like, oh, this guy could be – like, imagine if Paul George was 7 feet tall.
He'd be Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous stuff. But, like, this dude could be really solid for 15 years. And that makes this pick at number 9 it just awesome. And this is a guy that I think can do that. And there was, right after about 9, I think this is the edge of where I can really talk myself into a lot of these guys flaming out from here on.
Yeah, I mean, so let's wrap it up our top 10 discussion here. Johnny Davis, you called this, guard out of Wisconsin, had a fantastic year. It seemed like this was going to be the fit. You called it from the jump. You said this makes a lot of sense. Apparently the Wizards thought so as well, especially surrounding the questions around Bradley Beal. Is he going to come back? Who knows? Now, I don't think Johnny Davis is one of those guys where, oh, man, this is going to make Bradley Beal stay. Like, wow, look at this talent. I have to opt back in.
Could you imagine?
Oh, geez. But it is one of those guys that maybe, somewhere down the road, you at least have a solid player in there as a backup option. Beal leaves and, okay, let's start to do the rebuild process. That's pretty much my thoughts. I think he's a solid player. He's not that athletic in terms of NBA athleticism. I think he's going to have to develop his jump shot to be more consistent from three. I think as far as translation from his college game goes, that was what was lacking in my evaluation. You don't have to be uber athletic. Not everybody has to be uber athletic to play in the league, but you're going to have to do one thing super well. And I think for me, what Johnny Davis needs to do super well is be a knockdown 3-point shooter. So that's my thought process of him. I think it's a good pick for the Wizards. It's not going to blow you away. It's going to be a good name for him. I think it'll be a good player for him.
And you said it, good name. And that's why this pick made so much sense to me. And I mentioned it last time. We got to start talking about the Wizards as one of the worst organizations in sports. The teams do this, where they're like, this guy can score enough points. We can put butts in the seats. Because Brad Beal's gone, whether it's this year or next or whatever. Bradley Beal isn't going to be a Wizard for much longer. I know we've been saying that for a while, but this time it's real, goddammit. And Johnny Davis projects to be a guy that can put the ball in the hoop. I question his ability to get to the rim at an NBA level. I think that there's some really easy solutions for some of the things he was able to do at Wisconsin that, playing 82 games, you're seeing Mikal Bridges and Marcus Smart and all these guys, they're going to figure you out. And will he be able to adapt? I think so, because that's what he did at Wisconsin. But this could go poorly for Washington. I just see it as a way that they can get a guy that can score the ball because they have one right now and he doesn't even play.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our top 10 discussion here. We're going to name some of the other big names that you maybe knew from college basketball. Or you're like, I know that name. Where did they land? Not in the top 10. I think that's primarily the cutoff in a lot of NBA drafts. Lottery's 14, but you kind of get shaky actually really past the top 7 nowadays, especially with these unknowns. But we're going to go through some of the names that you may have heard in the past and where they ended up. But I think obviously the big one, Ochai Agbaji, from Kansas, national champion.
We hit that one too.
Yeah, under of his mark, I think it was 15 and a half or 16,
14 and a half.
Like 14 and a half. Whoo, just was barely. Yeah, you went 14 to the Cavs. I think this is a good pick for the Cavs, man. I like it. He's a flat bucket getter, and that's what the Cavs are missing down the stretch. Like, it just looked like everything was so hard for them. This is a dude who's just a pure flat scorer. Yeah, I think he's gonna have a spot in the NBA because he can fill it up. Like, he's a bucket, and I think he will be a good addition to this Cavaliers team.
And his give a shit meter is about the highest in the draft. And that's something that matters when you're picking 14. You think you're in the lottery and, everything's going to be sweet. But, there for every Devin Booker or Steve Nash or whoever it is that gets picked at 13, there's a Kendall Marshall. I know those were all Suns analogies, but that's the life that I've lived. He's going to come in. He's a winning basketball player. He's walking into a really good situation, actually. The Cavs were one of my League Pass teams last year. Watched them a ton. And I think him and Evan Mobley – Darius Garland. We'll see what happens with Colin Sexton. Like, that's an enticing young core. That's like and maybe Agbaji isn't going to be, all world at anything, but I think this is a guy he's going to play meaningful winning basketball at some point in his NBA career.
Another one here. This was really the show here. I don't know what the hell is going on with this. So I said, Jalen Duren Pistons ? Because I don't know what the hell this was. Because it started out as the Hornets select him at 13. Everybody's like, "Whoa, man, this is a great pick." They needed a big guy. And it's like, well, actually, they traded him to the Knicks, and the Knicks fans are like, finally, we got somebody because they didn't draft anybody in the first round. Then it comes out, actually, no, the Knicks are actually going to trade Jalen Duren and Kemba Walker to the Pistons. I think. I don't know. We don't even know what they're getting back. I mean, maybe it's out by now. Like, my head was spinning. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
I think I can't remember. It's stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know it's picks or something. I don't know. But what we do know is Jalen Duren is going to Detroit. Big name, was huge for like Memphis. I mean, not just physical wise, but I think he was their best player last year. I mean, the dude. I don't know if he's going to start, but he's gonna. I think he's going to make an impact. To what extent? As far as maybe like 20 minutes backup center type of role, I think he's going to have some sort of impact at the rim and defensively.
And if Shaedon Sharpe is the mystery man of this class, then Jalen Duren is like the guy that we've all seen play, but none of us have any idea on like what is going. Like this is a dude where, for the first half of that Gonzaga game was like this dude is shitting on Chet Holmgren. Like it was like this dude is way better than him. Obviously, things kind of balance back out there, but like we see glimpses of his potential all throughout the season, and I think he really fits with Memphis because it's whatever they're doing as far as rim protection just isn't working. And Jalen Duren at worst is going to be able to protect the rim. Kendrick Perkins compared to Bam Adebayo, I don't see any Bam in his game. Like to me,
oh my God, no way!
Yeah,
what the hell?
I don't see any of that. Like this is like a souped up Mitchell Robinson almost. Like right now, I mean, the things he can do are what he does well. He does really well, and the other things though he can add. And like his shooting stroke isn't broken. He shows the ability to break some people down off the dribble. Like there are tools there that if they can tap into, will be pretty amazing. It's just I don't understand what the hell is going on with like half these teams, and like the Hornets just got involved to get involved, and they got like a first round pick in like 4 seconds for a guy they took number 11 or whatever. Like this is the NBA sucks sometimes, man. These guys are idiots.
Well, speaking of the Hornets, Mark Williams, big name out of Duke. They traded Jalen Duren. Okay, they got their big man in Mark Williams, and this was a guy that you said made sense all along. Apparently, the Hornets agreed. They just did something with Duren to get something back that we're not quite familiar with. They're sure of. But basically, Mark Williams staying in North Carolina. He's a North Carolina kid. He's going to stay there. Obviously, went to school at Duke, staying in Charlotte. This is going to be awesome for their pick and roll offense.
Oh, it's going to be crazy.
Especially if it's Mike D'Antoni coming in. Kenny Atkinson turns down the job. It looks like D'Antoni's probably going to get the role. That's just an explosive rim run here. Somebody who's going to block shots on the defensive end as well. This is a great pickup in the mid-teens for the Hornets.
And we were talking during the season, like during the college basketball season, that this dude might be Clint Capella. Like there's some real world, and like that might be the baseline for what this guy. For like you can't have arms this long and not be able to block shots in the NBA, especially when you can get up like he can. His defensive timing is great. He knows where to be. And like you said, he's going to catch a lot of lobs. He's going to have a great lob thrower and LaMelo Ball throwing him the alley-oops. But one thing I think that's important to keep in mind is like one of the reasons the Hornets were so bad to me on defense a year ago is like the Plumlee experiment is over.
Yeah,
like, that dude's not – he's not going to push you to the next level. Mark Williams can defend that back line. And then if you want to keep Bridges, right, then all of a sudden he's boosted as a defender. LaMelo gets a little boost as a defender because you can let the Jazz do it all the time. Donovan Mitchell couldn't guard you. But somebody gets to the rim, it gets swatted. His numbers go up. Everybody's happy. I think Mark Williams could be that guy for the Hornets. Not that he has Rudy Gobert potential, but he's going to fill a role immediately. And I expect to see Mark Williams on the court within the first month of the season in the starting lineup.
AJ Griffin, another Dookie. We talked about him yesterday. Potentially top 10 guy. Can he sneak in there? There are some questions medically. We talked about it. His shot's a little robotic at times, but dude can just flat out shoot. Hawks select him. Somebody who's going to space the floor. Now you have Herter, Bogdanovich, and AJ Griffin. Obviously, what they're looking to do is space the floor out. AJ Griffin's a solid defender as well, kind of fits that 3-and-D mold. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play early. This seems like it's going to be something where he's going to have spots off the bench, moments with that second team that he's going to have to kind of prove himself a bit. Yeah, I mean, I think solid for both sides. I can see the fit. I can see the idea. And, if he hits, it's a great pickup for the Hawks.
And one thing I think, you said he's a solid defender. I think that he has all the tools to be a solid defender, but I don't – watching him last year, and you watched him more than I did, you can speak to this, but it almost looks like he doesn't quite know how to play defense yet. But once he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to get, obviously all-world coach. He's getting it at Duke too, but he's going to get extended rest probably to start the year. They're going to make sure everything's good with this guy. But once he can learn kind of where to be, and that was the biggest thing. Cam Reddish, right? When they took him it was 3, wasn't it? And it was like
or maybe it was 6. I'm not
6.
Sure. Yeah.
I can't remember. But it was like this dude's going to get a bucket, and if he can guard, that's awesome. It turns out he can't score, but he can play defense. And now it feels like we're doing it again, but the cost to acquire these guys is much different. And I like this move a lot more for the Hawks because, I mean, I said it last time, and I believe it. If AJ Griffin hits, like, we might be talking about this guy 5 years from now. Is like, can you believe he went 17?
Right. And Reddish went 10th. Barrett went 3rd.
10. I gotcha.
Yeah, 10 for Reddish. Yeah, split it. And the last one here before we kind of get some surprises for us, Tari Eason, LSU guy, was a hot name for a while. Lands with the Rockets. They were looking for defense. They got it with him. High motor guy. Somebody who's going to do the dirty work, which I think is necessary on that Rockets team. Jalen Green, glamorous. Kevin Porter Jr., work ethic questions in Cleveland, just wants to get up shots. And then Jabari Smith, he's a worker for sure, but he's a little bit more tailored to the offensive side of the game at this point, even though I think he's going to be a good defender in the NBA. Tari Eason's going to come in. He's going to do the dirty work. He's not going to command the ball. He's going to want to crash the boards. You don't have to run a play for him. He's going to cut. And then on the defensive end, he's going to be disruptive. Solid pick for the Rockets here, especially getting somebody on their board. They're like, hey, we think this guy would be a great fit in our system.
And he's the only dude of all those guys that you just named that has like an NBA-ready defensive body. Like, Porter Jr. has been in the league. Even now, looking at him, it's like you couldn't. Either you don't want to or you can't. And Jabari Smith is going to be good. We both believe that. He's going to be at least a good shot blocker, but he's still a little skinny. Jalen Green is like 4 inches all the way around. Like this, he's skinny as it gets. Tari Eason's coming in. Like, this dude is going to be big-bodied for him, and that's something that Houston has been sorely missing, right? And we talked about they got Sengun and all those guys, and now we can be physical because there's just last year if you watch them, they're just ridiculously finesse basketball, and that's why every game was 140 to 115 because they couldn't guard anybody. Like, they were it's just basically doing some of the things the Warriors do well and then abandoning the rest of it. And now they're trying to, like, okay, let's get some like NBA bodies in here. Let's get some guys that can guard. And I think he's going to stick.
All right. Let's so biggest surprises for us. Now, can be people who went higher, can be people who went lower, and we can touch on some of the people in the second round here a bit to close here. I think the biggest one to me, not that I was shocked, because both you and I had heard this name that he was going to go higher than a lot of people expected. But I heard, late first round, when I saw Christian Brown go 21 to the Nuggets, I was surprised by that. Now, again, he's going to fit what the Nuggets are looking for. High motor, can be a 3-and-D guy, and also can fill up by shooting from the perimeter, as well as very, very athletic and explosive. So he kind of fits what they were looking for. I think at 21, I don't want to say it's a reach, because like at that point, you just kind of target who you think can play and make your roster. But I was surprised he went that high. That was a surpriser for me.
I think this dude would have been a top 10 pick next year if he stayed in school. I don't know if he's going to be a good NBA player. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, just comparing those two sentences, but like now he's being thrown to the wolves, and it might be go time right off the rip because he's coming in a position that the Nuggets, have been throwing guys in, basically just hoping to find somebody that can do the things that Christian Brown does well. It feels a little bit to me like he might not be seasoned enough to come in and play right away, and that can be pretty detrimental to somebody drafted at 21. You don't get a lot of chances when you're taking at 21. If you're taking at 4, Josh Jackson's still kicking around the league. But if this dude, to me, was the most enticing player on Kansas last year, and if he came back to school, I think he would have taken over the program and been the face of it for a year. Obviously, that does pretty good things for your draft stock as well. But like you said, like his athleticism is super slept on, I think. His ability to shoot the ball is pretty good, but it was small sample sizes that we got from him. And he was the best player in the national championship game. That doesn't mean nothing, right? That's something. But it would have been nice to see him be able to string some stuff together instead of 13-minute spurts off the bench.
Another one for me, Blake Wesley falling to 25. And I talked previous episode. I like the kid a lot. I mean, he fits. He's got the NBA body. He's super athletic. The question mark is if he can develop a jump shot. But the dude's a hard worker. I like the profile. He just kind of fits that modern day mold. I think he's going to be a good defender in the league. Long arms. I think can develop a jump shot at times. In the NCAA tournament, he was hitting threes, tough contested shots in the lane. It just seems like he's one of those guys that a team would have taken a chance on a little bit earlier than he went at 25. So I was surprised he fell this late in the draft.
And he went to the Spurs. And everything that you just described him as is what we were talking about earlier. This is the kind of player that they like. And if the Spurs are going to take somebody at 25, I'm more inclined that guy's going to be good than if the Sixers take somebody at 25 or the Suns or
right.
Whoever it is, When San Antonio does these things, I'm automatically already leaning to like, well, there's the best. That guy's going to be the best defender in the NBA. Like something, they know something because they always do. And this was a guy, I agree with you. I thought maybe he'd slip to like 22. But there was just no way. I thought he'd almost lost to the second round. I mean, he was a premier. He was all. Don't let the accolades fool you either. He was among the best players in the ACC.
Yeah,
and I thought him getting second team was kind of just a victim of circumstance thing based on the guys that were in the conference this year. This is the guy where if we're 2 years ago or maybe 2 years down the line, he's finding himself kind of fringe lottery discussion. Just a victim of the draft.
Man, for sure. Any other big surprises for you, Tyson?
I'm not surprised, but I'm pissed. The Warriors taking Patrick Baldwin at 28. This is a guy where if you follow high school hoops or anything like that, you've heard the name for quite a while. He commits to the middle of nowhere, and we're all confused. We don't see him play for a year. And now he might just end up being the guy he was in high school. Like he was better than all these kids for their whole lives. And then he does have some real concerns, right? There's some things he does not do well. But if there's anywhere that can fix him and turn him into a winning player, it's got to be Golden State. Like the things he has the potential to do are a lot better than the 28th pick in the draft.
Yeah, his claim to fame. So he committed to Duke originally, and then decommitted, went to play University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin for his dad. And his claim to fame, and he was the number 5 overall recruit in high school. So when you say that, there was literally barely any of these people better than him amongst his peers in his class. His claim to fame was his shooting. He did not shoot the ball well in college, like at all. People are wondering if his jump shot's broken. People are wondering if he was only a good shooter because he was so wide open. So there's questions amongst that. Now, people also know what position he's going to play. He likes to have the ball in his hand, in that guard role, but he's 6'9". Is he more of a forward? Like, is he not a three-point shooter? Is he really just more of a feel face-up 4 where he hits a mid-range game? Those are the questions about Patrick Baldwin Jr. We'll see what happens. He's going to go to the Warriors. He's going to play for Santa Cruz, who are great at developing talent. And then we're going to see this kid come up and we're like, geez, of course the Warriors got this guy. This kid was fucking number 5 in his class, and you let him fall to the Warriors. It's like when you like fall to like the Patriots or something. It's like a good player, like a free agency. You're like, you're really letting them go to the Patriots?
Again?
Like, what are we doing?
It happened again, and that's honestly how this feels. Like a year ago, them taking Kuminga and Moses Moody, it was like, okay, they're prepping for something coming, and now they're coming off an NBA title, and so the entire philosophy shifts where it's like, okay, we got to get guys for the future too. Well, we can afford to miss one. Like, let's just take the guy. He's got the most talent left on the board. And generally when these guys go to good organizations, it tends to work. nobody wanted to touch Michael Porter Jr., and I know a lot of people still hate him, but that's a max NBA player.
Yeah.
Just is.
Last one for me that kind of surprised me. My boy Dalen Terry from Arizona to the Bulls. I was surprised he went this high. I'm looking at the mocks. I'm seeing mid-20s. I'm like, man, for a 6'7" kid with a 7-foot wingspan, plays like shooting guard, but can also play point. Like that seems low. Dalen Terry. Go ahead.
On. The Cavs took Mobley's brother. I had to throw that in there.
Oh yeah, Isaiah in the second round. Hell yeah, that's awesome. A little family reunion in Cleveland.
All right, I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. I actually just see that pop up on my ESPN scroll now. Actually, that's funny. But Dalen Terry, I think he's going to be a good player for the Bulls in the backup role. Like we don't really know who's going to have that rotation on the back end. Io DeSumo was a second round pick of them last year. He was good for him in spurts. The emergence of what's that kid's name from North Carolina who had the long hair, really
White.
fast. Kobe White. Him coming off an injury. Patrick Williams, who's there. How does he really fit in? We'll see, but I like his profile. Levine, if he leaves, I think it looks like the Bulls want to bring him back, but if he leaves, kind of slide him in, that could potentially move him up on a faster track than you'd expect at this point. But Dalen Terry to 18, I like him. I'm just surprised he went that high.
And this is a guy that if you'd never seen this guy before and he walked into a room, you'd go, that guy plays in the NBA. Just 100, like he's 6'7" and a quarter. He's too skinny right now, but that'll come. But first of all, the dude is like kind of just freaky athletic, but not in the way that some of these other guys are. Like his side-to-side quickness, or just reading plays and being able to spring up, get a steal, and throw down a dunk at the other end. Those were the things that made Arizona great this season. Koloko was awesome, and Ben Mathurin, obviously, and all these other guys. But like this, he was closer to the Patrick Williams role at Florida State, which is something apparently the Bulls are falling in love with. He's not the same defender, but his anticipation is really good. And I think that if he can just jump passing lanes and fill his role on the offensive end, then we're going to be good to go.
Any other surprises before we get to kind of some rapid thoughts, other players that we can rapidly hit on or some second-round players we want to talk about?
I don't really have anything else, man. I think, we said it last time that there's never any trades and it's mostly just
jabber trades.
And today the things that freak people out were things that we thought were going to happen. So not really shocked by any. I guess EJ Liddell is sliding all the way down to 40, but again, he goes to the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a good spot. He's going to be a good player, I think.
All right, so let's do some rapid thoughts on some players real quick before we get out of here, Tyson. Just who's going in the second or who went in the second round, other first round picks that maybe we didn't discuss. My first one I'm going to touch on here, Jaden Hardy going to the Kings at 37. That feels like a steal to me. I mean, this kid was prolific out of high school. I thought for sure this would be a perfect landing spot for my Sixers to get him. To fall to 37, this is a great pickup for the Kings. I like Jaden Hardy there. Max Christie going to the Lakers, much as it pains me to say, could be a legit player in this league. Doesn't have a chance to shine for Michigan State, but fits kind of the NBA body and mold. He's just going to have a lot to grow into. And then Nikola Jovic, we talked about him on the last podcast. I mentioned him on kind of like a closing shot. Going to the Heat, the dude is 7 foot and is an absolute bucket and can shoot the ball. That's what the Heat need. Spread the ball out, take some pressure off of some of the other guys who aren't the best shooters for their height, aka Bam and Dwayne Dedman.
So CBS, their website right now, that's where I have the picks pulled up. They have David Roddy listed as a shooting guard.
Yeesh.
Yikes. Where's that guy? Where's he going to play?
David Roddy, he's going to be an undersized 4, probably. Small, maybe undersized 3, maybe. I mean, he's short. I think he's 6'6".
It's just like I know that's your boy, but
yeah,
I think he was a lot better suited as the biggest guy in his conference for most of the year than having to guard some of these guys. I mean, there's a lot of these ones that are just going to be questionable fits, and like I like Kendall Brown from Baylor, and he goes to the T-Wolves, but Kendall Brown's a guy that you might never hear the name of, right? And that's kind of when we get into these second rounds. Well, you could get Jokic. Yeah, but for every Ginobili and Jokic, there's 2,000, other guys that just never even, they don't even get G League minutes. So,
Right.
and a lot of times too, and it's something to keep in mind. That's what I'm excited about when we hop off here is the post NBA draft. There's going to be better players than that went 50 this year to 58 because 2 picks got pulled. But once, guys slip to that range, they don't want to be picked. They want to negotiate their own contract. So there's still a lot of good players out there.
Yeah, Sharif O'Neal, he got a G League invite to the Lakers. I'm seeing a lot of actually Alondas Williams. Here you go from Wake Forest, dude who can play one-on-ones, like kind of like got an NBA body, 2-way contract with the Nets. So that's kind of something there, Tyson. Like you mentioned, hey, don't draft me. Let me just sign something with you guys. Kind of pick and choose agents negotiating that way. So 2-way deals are coming out for sure. We'll see some of the big names that were people kind of like some scraps. I mean, for a lack of a better term, that are kind of left on the heap here. But I thought it was a good draft overall. It was fun. Like we were talking about it. I thought it was a good experience. Felt like we knew a lot of these players. You had your one and dones peppered in, but a lot of 2-year, 3-year, 4-year guys in this mix.
It's going to be fun too, because this is always the best appetizer in sports. We are 8 days away from the start of free agency, right? July 1st, I think, is when they're allowed to tamper? Well, we know Woj tells us all this.
I love that.
Yeah,
Woj knows, right? Woj boss, because he was so right. Hey, we got everything's locked in. The 3 picks. Yeah, dude.
No,
good luck with
he's
that.
going to be telling us. He's going to tell us tomorrow what happens to KD, just because he's so upset about what happened to him tonight. But yeah, the NBA knows how to do it, man, because the drama's brewing underneath. Everybody's names on the trade market. We get the draft, get the eyes back, and then all of a sudden, Kyrie Irving signs a mid-level with the Lakers, blows the internet up.
So I think June 30th. That's when you can tamper.
All right, so we're a week away, and they sign deals that day. They sign they can officially sign at midnight, but we know, it's over. I mean, they've been doing this since last June.
It's crazy. So. Yeah, we got a lot, and then we got G League, of course. And as Tyson and I said, we actually may have somebody who's going to have boots on the ground there coming on, telling us what he sees. So we are looking forward to a lot of content this summer. Obviously, football around the corner. This was pretty much the last solo NBA podcast, or NBA specific podcast that we'll have.
And I love the NBA, but it's been, I mean, it was a rough one for us, for our personal rooting interests. I think we had a throw-up inducing season.
Yeah, for sure. So now we got the off season that we can get irrational again. But we just need time to heal. That's all.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, football's right around the corner. We can't wait. We have a ton of ideas for it. So stay tuned. We appreciate you guys supporting us, listening as always. Liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or watching us on YouTube. We really, really appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram as well in the meantime, @_the roundtable pod _. Same thing with our TikTok. We're putting out more content on that. Same handle, @_ the roundtable pod _, and our Twitter as well, @TRT _pod. Basketball's done. Getting ready to turn the table into football. No podcast next week. I'm going on vacation, so Tyson gets a break from me. He can't wait for it. So until we speak again, guys, peace.